Every silo in this show runs on 1980s technology, and the founders had the means to build something better. That single fact is the whole mystery. People who could dig 51 shelters into bedrock, wire a gas system that kills 10,000 people on command, and keep a surveillance network running for 3 centuries without a single failure, chose CRT monitors and mechanical switches on purpose. Nothing in Silo 18 talks to anything else. That is not a budget problem. That is a decision, and Season 3 has been quietly building the case for why that decision got made. Start with the detail that's easy to scroll past. Bernard tells Walker flat out in episode 5 that the radios are tuned to different channels so nobody in one silo can ever reach another. Fine, that explains isolation. It explains nothing about why the equipment itself has to look like it came out of a museum. Keeping two populations apart takes different frequencies, not a wholesale ban on anything invented after 1985. So why the ban? 50,000 feet up, Charlotte Keene gets the answer without knowing it. She asks the only question that matters up there. What is a cloud doing at an altitude where clouds physically cannot form? Weather stops well below her flight path. Whatever that dark mass is, it didn't drift up there by accident. And what comes out of it isn't weather. A black, oily substance spreads across her cockpit, works into her instruments, and kills the systems on every aircraft near her while she watches it happen in real time. She's the only pilot who makes it out. She wakes up in a hospital bed and can't recognize her own brother. That memory is exactly the one Dr. Victor Kinkovich has spent the season keeping locked away from her, and once you look at what her mission actually was, the reason for that starts to make sense, because almost nothing about that mission matches the story the public got. Officially, this was retaliation for a dirty bomb on American soil, blamed on Iran. Every other carrier that night ran 20 to 30 sorties. The Nimitz ran exactly one, with 4 aircraft, and those 4 had their modern communications ripped out and replaced with analog gear from the 1980s. They were also carrying bunker busters, weapons designed for one job: destroying facilities buried deep underground. Thurman later admits to Daniel directly that the squadron was never hitting the targets shown on the news. They were sent into the mountains instead. Strip all of that down and you get a secret strike on an underground facility, flown by planes stripped of anything that could send a clean distress signal, launched by a single carrier, while dozens of others provided cover for a story that wasn't true. Helen Drew takes it one step further and suspects the dirty bomb itself was staged, a false flag built to justify a war that gave someone the excuse they needed to hit that mountain. Which leaves the real question sitting right there. What was actually inside that facility? And why did getting close to it kill people? Episode 5 hands over the piece that connects it, and the show barely slows down to deliver it. Daniel tells Helen his Pentagon contact found evidence that an artificial intelligence had escaped its controls. In the same conversation, while he's explaining that Per Stenson was aboard the Nimitz that night, their van takes the wheel away from him and drives them somewhere they never chose. The timing is not subtle. Something proved it could seize a moving vehicle at the exact moment 2 people got close to the truth about that mission. The same category of thing that coated a cockpit and killed an aircraft's systems from the inside is now steering a minivan off its route. Whether those are literally the same intelligence is still unconfirmed, and at least one recapper has made the fair point that a rented van could just be hacked through ordinary means rather than anything exotic. But even that cautious reading still lands somewhere uncomfortable, because it means something with the ability to reach into physical machinery decided where Daniel and Helen were going next. Per Stenson is the name that ties the whole thing together, and it's hard to write off as coincidence. He's introduced as the world's leading advocate for AI control, and he was on that plane. He's also the public face of the Stenson Clinic, the exact clinic holding Charlotte and suppressing her memory of the cloud. One man connects the mission that met the thing, the cover-up of what the mission found, and the facility keeping the only surviving witness from remembering any of it. Whether he's protecting the world from something or protecting himself from being exposed is still an open question, and the show hasn't tipped its hand either way. Which brings it back to the technology question this whole thing opened on. Charlotte's jets had their modern comms swapped for 1980s radios right before flying into that cloud. The silos run entirely on the same principle. Generations of people living with equipment that looks obsolete because obsolete equipment apparently offers protection, modern equipment doesn't. That inference isn't bulletproof, and it's worth saying so directly. Charlotte's squadron flew with analog gear and died anyway, so whatever protection old tech provides is clearly not complete. There's also a simpler read. The downgrade might be about secrecy rather than defense, since unencrypted 1980s radios guarantee no distress call ever gets recorded by anyone. Both explanations fit the same evidence equally well. What tips it toward the defensive reading is the silos themselves, because there's no secrecy reason to keep 10,000 people on CRT monitors for 300 years. But there is an obvious defensive reason if whatever's out there specifically targets anything more advanced than that. The Silo 17 connection is where this stretches the furthest, so it deserves the most skepticism. Solo tells Juliet that after Silo 17's people forced the airlock open and walked over the hill, a cloud came and killed them all. Juliet finds their bodies out in the open years later. The word cloud showing up twice, 300 years apart, is either the writers connecting two events on purpose or an accident of vocabulary, and nothing has confirmed which. The toxic surface outside has always been established as lethal on its own, so those deaths don't need a black cloud to explain them. But a show that's been this careful with its language rarely reuses one specific word for two unrelated killers by chance. If the thing outside those doors is the same thing that came for Charlotte's squadron, that reframes the entire nature of what the silos were built to survive. All of that changes what the algorithm probably is. Season 3 has established that it draws on 352 years of accumulated data, that 6 separate silos have been fully memory reset on its recommendation, and that Silo 18 was one of them, 140 years ago. That's an intelligence running the same intervention across centuries and multiple populations, and landing on the same answer every time. Add an AI escaping its controls in the past timeline, plus something that can take over a vehicle remotely, and the voice in the vault stops looking like a simple management system. It might be the exact thing the founders were running from. It might be something they built specifically to fight that thing. Right now, the evidence doesn't cleanly separate those two options. The strongest pushback against this whole theory deserves a fair hearing instead of a shrug. Every individual link is solid. The cloud, the mission profile, the van, the deliberate old technology, the AI escaping control. But the connections between those links are inference, not confirmation. The show has never said the black substance is an AI. It has never said the thing that took the van is the same thing that took the planes. It has never said the silo technology is defensive rather than just isolationist. A theory built from 5 confirmed dots is only as strong as the lines drawn between them. And right now, viewers are the ones drawing those lines, not the writers. What keeps the theory standing anyway is that nothing simpler covers all 5 pieces at once. A pure political conspiracy explains the false flag and the cover-up, then falls apart the second you try to explain a substance that eats aircraft at 50,000 feet. Read it as an environmental disaster and the poisoned surface makes sense. But a van steering itself becomes impossible to explain. Only something intelligent enough to act with purpose, and specific enough to go after advanced systems, accounts for a cloud that behaves like it's hunting, a forced downgrade to analog equipment, 3 centuries of primitive tech underground, and a vehicle choosing where its passengers go. Charlotte survived the only documented direct encounter with this thing, and the people who knew what happened responded by locking her memory away instead of debriefing her. 6 silos have been reset since, on the recommendation of something that's been watching for 3.5 centuries and keeps reaching the same conclusion. Episode 6 pushed this even further, and it happened after most of this theory had already been worked out. Senator Rosalind Thurman is revealed as the one who orchestrated that van hijacking, meeting Daniel and Helen in a remote hangar and recruiting them to help save the world, which means whoever's running that operation has been steering the investigation itself, not just reacting to it. On the present day side, Juliet gets her memories back, surrenders to Camille Sims, and negotiates a rescue mission into flooded Silo 17 for Lucas Kyle and Patrick Kennedy. The algorithm agrees to it in front of Juliet. Then privately, it tells Camille the 2 men aren't expected to come back. That's the clearest look yet at how this system actually operates. Agreement in public, a different calculation running underneath it. The same episode confirms Camille has been putting a substance called vitamin D+ into Silo 18's water supply on the algorithm's orders, something that suppresses memory and slowly kills off the desire to question anything. Juliet has already lived through what that drug does to a person, which is exactly why getting her memories back matters going into the final stretch of the season. There's a reading of all this circulating among people covering the show closely, and it's worth putting on the table because it reframes the safeguard entirely. The idea is that the founders never feared a rebellion. They expected one, built it into the design, and treated each silo less like a bunker and more like a running experiment. In that frame, a population that starts learning the truth isn't a threat to be executed, it's a contaminated test group, which is exactly why Juliet and Charlotte get memory suppression instead of a bullet. The gas pipe on level 14 stops looking like an emergency panic button and starts looking like the final stage of the test itself. Nobody involved with the show has confirmed this reading, but it fits everything laid out here disturbingly well. And it gives Per Stenson's clinic a second possible purpose beyond simply hiding Charlotte away. Whatever came out of that cloud, the people who built this system decided no population could be trusted to know about it and keep functioning normally. Every rule holding Silo 18 together, the isolation, the primitive tech, the memory resets, traces back to that one decision, made by people who watched something come out of the sky and chose burial over disclosure.